I'm gonna lift him up while I watch and pray. When the storm of life are raging and the billows are tossing high, I can feel Jesus standing right by my side. But I got to pray to the Lord each and every day. I'm gonna lift him up while I watch and pray. Glory. I gotta say glory in the highest praise. I got to tell the world about it. I'm telling everybody about it. Got to say glory. Hallelujah. One more thing. In my time of destruction, Jesus found me, yes he did. And he filled me with love and salvation. Oh yes he did. And in my midst of trials and guilt, I put my faith, and you know, until I found resting place. In my time of destruction, Jesus found me, yes he did. Filled me with love and salvation. Oh yes he did. Oh yeah. And in my midst of trial and guilt, and you know that him, and in him, and in him I find resting place. Glory. Could you help me say glory this morning? God's sure been good. God's been good, yeah, yeah. Hallelujah. I don't mind saying glory, 'cause I know God's been good. I'm so glad about it. And I'm going to say this name forever and evermore. I'm going to magnify it from shore to shore. Sometimes I feel like I'm all alone. But Jesus will give me a peace of mind. Lord, in my trying time, I'm going to set this name forever and ever and evermore. I'm going to magnify it from shore to shore. And you know what? Sometimes I feel like all alone. Give me a peace of mind. Quiet time, I got to say. How many of you believe that God's been good? Y'all is right. It don't matter. You say glory. Say glory. Say glory. Would you help me say it this morning? I just got to say glory, glory, glory. One more time. And I'm going to say this name forever and evermore. I'm going to magnify it from shore
That very same day.
And this is Luke 24. Go to your bulletin. This is Luke 24, 13 through 21. The road to Emmaus.
That very same day, two of them were on their way to a village called Emmaus, 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they were talking together about that had happened. Now, as they had talked this over, Jesus himself came up and walked by their side. But something prevented them from recognizing him. He said to them, "What matters are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped short, their faces downcast. Then one of them, called Cleophas, answered him, "You must be the only person staying in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have been happening there these last few days." "What things?" he asked. "All about Jesus of Nazareth," they answered, "who proved he was a great prophet by the things he said and did in the sight of God and of the whole people, and how our chief priests and our leaders handed him over to be sentenced to death and had him crucified. Our own hope had been that he would be the one to set Israel free."
I want to key in on verse number 21, that last verse. Our own hope had been that he would be the one to set Israel free. Our own hope had been that he would be the one to set Israel free.
Right?
Now, the disciples are experiencing the first stage of grief, which is denial.
That's right.
Denial helps us to survive a loss because the world has become meaningless and overwhelming.
Amen.
Life makes no sense when we are in shock, we are numb, and we wonder, how can we go on? Have you ever lost a loved one
Amen.
who meant the world to you?
Amen.
You ever lost a loved one that meant the world to you? Jesus meant everything to the disciples.
That's right.
Everything.
Well,
The disciples had also lost a spiritual principle that is essential. They had just lost all hope. Surely Jesus was the one to set Israel free. The ugly reality for the disciples was that very little had changed. Rome still occupied Israel. They still collected taxes for Caesar. The priesthood still controlled the temple. The Roman soldiers still policed the streets of Jerusalem.
our Lord.
Crucifixion was still the penalty for resistance. The Messiah had been killed, and now the disciples themselves, they were fugitives. Now, when we play armchair quarterback and we look at the disciples and say, oh, they abandoned Jesus, but the same thing that happened to Jesus was available to happen to them as well, because they were conspiring with Jesus this entire time. So they were fugitives in their own land.
Amen. Our Lord.
The world remained essentially as it was before Jesus was crucified. The disciples faced a profound test of their faith after Jesus' death. Now what? Now what? Go to your handout. The scriptural account of the resurrection was written many, many years after the death of Jesus.
Right.
These are very important points. The first gospel written, which is the Gospel of Mark, was written at least 70 years after Jesus was dead. Now, other gospels were written some as much as 130 years after Jesus had died. And this means that little in the gospel stories is accurate in a historical sense.
Right.
Little. The gospel reflects the importance which people attach to the life of Jesus. Again, as I was talking about last week, little was actually written down about Jesus except for fragmentary collections and sayings. During this period, people were trying to make sense out of Jesus' life. And to give you an idea, think about what I said. How many people remember what I talked about last week? Could you play back that conversation to me? Now we're talking about 70 to 130 years later from tradition, and people are going back writing about Jesus. These gospel writers are writing about Jesus millennials later. Excuse me, decades later. Now, the Apostle Paul's interpretation of Jesus places all emphasis and significance on the death and resurrection of Jesus rather than the unrecorded reality of his earthly ministry. I'm going to keep going over these. We'll go over this again. The Apostle Paul's interpretation of Jesus places all emphasis on significance on the death and resurrection of Jesus rather than the unrecorded reality of his earthly ministry.
That's right. That's right.
Now, Paul in Paul's epistles, and this epistle simply means coming from Paul's own mind.
Right.
This is what Paul thought about the resurrection. He wasn't there. He didn't know Jesus. So all of his gospels are coming from Paul's own mind, his own thoughts. Now, Jesus, to Paul, he somehow corrects Adam's original sin. I don't know how that worked out. Like Adam, we were not going to go through the whole story, but we know that Adam disobeyed God in the Garden of Eden by eating a piece of fruit. And some way this has been transferred down to all of us. This sin. And, just think about it. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but just think about it rationally, because a lot of people are gathered all over this city, all over this country, all over this world, Africa, South America, Europe, and they believe this fabrication. They believe this.
That's right.
Which makes, if this makes any sense to you, please come to me after Bible class and explain it to me. Jesus dies on the cross to take away the sins of mankind, giving us the promise of eternal life after death. Now, for the historic Jesus, this is not the religion of Jesus or Israel.
Amen.
Make your point.
Amen.
This is not the religion of Jesus of Israel. In it, the concept of nation or nationhood is completely destroyed, because this is individual. This is just me, myself, and I have been saved by this all-knowing, all-powerful God. It also, by believing that Jesus is God, if you believe that Jesus is God, his life and ministry means nothing. His miracles mean nothing, because of course, and people don't put very much emphasis in the slave church on Jesus' ministry, because he was God. Of course he could do that. Of course he could walk on water. Of course he can raise the dead. He was God. But this is not the historical Jesus. This is a distortion of what Jesus taught.
Amen.
And though we are confused by this corruption, we must study the Bible. We must research the Bible
That's right.
and the religion of the Black Messiah and separate what was Jesus and what was Paul. This can be painstaking, but we have got to do this,
That's right.
or confusion will reign.
Amen. Amen.
The Black Messiah and Pauline interpretation, which tend to make us think about Jesus, is something that he is not. This is a joke. I heard this. This is from T.D. Jakes, who's a very eloquent, very powerful speaker. But I question his theology. His thought, I don't know if he was joking or not. You would have to look it up. He said, when he gets to heaven, this is T.D. Jakes, this is a quote, the first thing he's going to do is walk up to Adam and slap. I'm going to slap Adam. I'm going to slap Adam because all of this problems has been placed on Adam. I'm serious. Y'all laughing with it. The resurrection that we celebrate in the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church is not the resurrection of a physical body of Jesus, but the resurrection of a black nation, which Jesus started.
Well,
The resurrection of his ideas, the resurrection of his teachings, the immortality which Jesus has lies in the fact that 2,000 years later we remember.
That's right.
We remember.
All right.
We remember.
All right.
We remember. And 2,000 years later, we're trying to do the same thing he tried to do with the black nation in Palestine. We're in America, we're trying to do the same thing. If you are a black Christian nationalist, this is what you're trying to do. We're trying to be like Jesus. We're trying to emulate. We're trying to do the same things that the black Messiah did. And what basis do I have to say that? Well, what about John 14:12? The things I do, ye can do also. So we're remembering the things I do, you can do also. And this resurrection comes spiritually. It comes in our hearts. It will come in our actions, the things that we do, the way that we live our lives. We will be examples for others.
Amen.
Have you ever been like Jesus?
Amen.
This question for us. Do you ever get mixed up and say, oh man, you like Jesus, Damani? Damani just like Jesus. Takir, just like Jesus. Jahi, just like Jesus. Konada, just like Jesus.
that's right.
Why not?
That's right.
Why we don't get mixed up? You ever get I get mixed up all the time with other people. Like, Aaron, bro, I thought you was somebody else. While most churches are content to prepare members for the experience of death, we teach our members the healing rituals which restore health to body and mind, making it possible to achieve the experience of God. We come here to experience God. That's our number one thing.
That's right.
Is to experience God. Is to experience God. Is to experience God. But what then, after we have this experience, is just not a euphoric feeling that we're trying to get by connecting with our power, with this power of the universe. But we're to let our will become God's will and bring the world into submission to this God. And definitely black oppression is not a part of God's will. And if it is, if you believe that, then maybe you need to get a new God.
That's right.
You got the wrong God. In John 10:10, Jesus talks about being the good shepherd. I'm resurrecting all of these ideas, all of these teachings. The good shepherd. The good shepherd. You can be a good shepherd. Think about others more than yourself. Think about others more than ourselves. The good shepherd. Now, Jesus' ministry was built upon the foundation of revolutionary love, which began with the covenant. This began with agreement. Actually, God presented it to Abraham. Abraham didn't go to God. God came to Abraham and presented this agreement for a people, not for an individual. He didn't come to Abraham, just Abraham by himself. He was, I will make a great people out of you.
Right.
The numbers would be like the sand on the beach. And the law. Now, the covenant, it's in your handout, was God's guarantee. A guarantee. A guarantee that we will triumph over the forces that restrict and burden us as a people. And some can say, well, we're not free. Not totally, but God has obviously been working. We ain't been destroyed.
Amen.
Everything. The Middle Passage, chattel slavery, the rape of the black mama, the rape of Africa,
That's right.
Jim Crow, new Jim Crow, Reconstruction, lynchings, still here.
Amen.
Still here.
Amen.
In fact, seem to be multiplying. Right?
That's right.
We ain't falling out. We're in the bottom of everything, yet we still are here. We're still multiplying. And I don't think this is just black people. This is God. The covenant was God's guarantee that we would triumph over the forces that restrict and burden us as a people. The law stated that the conditions we must meet to ensure our triumph as God's people. We got a part in this. It's not just handed off to God, all right, take over God, which a lot of people believe God. Just God. It is, but we have our part in it.
All right.
Jesus goes on to say, I have not come to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. And that's in Matthew 5:17. And we have here components to revolutionary love. So we're going to do some resurrection in here this morning. Components to revolutionary love. Components to revolutionary love are, first, there must be compassion on the part of one another, of one for another. Can you love your brother? If you are offering your gift at the altar, and remember that your brother/sister has something against you, you leave your gift there before the altar and go first to be reconciled with your sister or brother, and then come and offer your gift. Reconciliation. Now, talk about unresolved resentments.
Well,
Unresolved resentments. It happens in our church. Unresolved resentments. And these are negative feelings,
Amen.
no.
basically ill will towards someone or something that emanates from the past, that emanates from something in the past.
Amen.
Resentment is the re-experiencing of past injustices. You re-experience them. That's why people can get so emotional. Right? You're like, oh Lord, what is wrong with you? Right? Where did this come from? Where did all of this hate, where did all of this bad will come from? Because you're re-experiencing an old feeling of a past, this is the case of a past injustice, real or perceived to be real.
Well,
Perceived is that it might not even have been about you, but you perceive you did something to me, and it might not even been about you at all.
my Lord.
And the old feelings of anger connected to them. Some people hold resentments for many, many, many years.
My Lord.
Amen.
Now, try to work out the problems that have hurt your relationship with your brother and sister. Do not avoid the interpersonal conflicts. We're trying to build a nation. We're trying to build a nation. We're going to have interpersonal conflicts. It is inevitable. It is part of being a human being that conflict is going to come up.
Amen.
Well,
Point is how we handle the conflict. What is our, not reacting, but how do we respond? Are we responding out of fear, or are we responding out of love? Interpersonal conflicts are actions that they do not exist. Don't act like they don't exist. Just so hey, they don't exist, I'm not going to speak to you anymore. I'm going to walk by you and act like you are not there, which takes more energy. I don't know who people are fooling when they do it. It takes more energy to not speak to you than it does to go ahead and speak.
Well,
So what is it about us that we will hold on to this? If you're trying to build a nation. But if you believe in the Pauline theology, then it doesn't make any difference. What difference does your relationship will make? I'm already saved. Jesus did everything for me.
well,
You better take
He corrected Adam.
break it down, break it down. I'm already saved, brother.
How about this? Let's try some conflict resolution. Let's try some conflict resolution. See, that takes some action. That takes some courage. That takes some practice. Takes some courage. Takes some humility. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong. Maybe I need to look at my part in it. So first we got to look at, first and foremost is to look at self. In every activity we do, look at self.
Amen.
If someone is disturbing you, anyone say that if someone is disturbing you, it is your mind
Amen.
and emotions that are being disturbed, not the others. We are identifying with our thoughts
Amen.
about what you see or hear and are letting those thoughts bother me. Your own mind is bothering you. They talking about me. You walk into the room, they're there. You know, like somebody look at you and you think somebody else is talking about, look at you, they're talking about me. Yeah.
My Lord.
It is entirely your problem.
Amen.
The other person might not be having
The same.
a problem at all.
That's right.
They ain't even thinking about you.
That's right. Move on.
Now, Jesus did not preach a mindless, unconditional compassion to his followers. If your brother sins, rebuke him. If he repents, forgive him. If he sins against you 7 times in a day and turns to you 7 times and says, I repent, you must forgive him.
Amen.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
It ain't asking, you ain't got to think about it. Acting spiritually, which we talking about being spiritual. Don't think about it because you'll talk yourself out. I know I talk myself out of it.
That's right.
I ain't by myself in this.
That's right.
You talk yourself out of it. You start rationalizing, well, they don't want to did this and this. That's why I did that. If you would have did this to me, I wouldn't have did this to you.
Rationalize.
That's Luke 17, 3-4.
Amen.
Forgiveness.
Yes, it is.
Forgiveness, check this out. Forgiveness is always about me.
That's right.
I know you're thinking forgiveness when I'm forgiving somebody, I'm forgiving you. You low down. So and so. Oh, I'm gonna let you off the hook. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is always about forgiving myself.
That's right.
When you're forgiving somebody, you're forgiving yourself.
Come on,
Bring it
now.
back now.
We forgive others to free ourselves.
Right.
To free ourselves from carrying. Like we got to be burdened down. A lot of times we burdened down because we're harboring, we're holding on to unforgiveness.
That's right.
We're carrying indifference
Right.
or acting like we're indifferent. I don't care whether you do good or you do bad. Don't make any difference to me about you. Anger and resentments. The garbage of hate. The garbage of revenge. Negativity.
Yes.
And the way the brain works, these can cause toxins to enter into your body, making you sick, causing anxiety, causing depression, sapping the very energy that God has given you. In order for us to build a black nation,
Well,
we're caught up in bondage inside of our own minds.
That's right.
So we're trying to free ourselves.
Amen.
This is a different way of looking at it, by forgiving. Practice. Practice. Not saying this is easy, but you got to practice it. Practice letting go. And not just letting go, forgetting.
All right.
You got to practice forgetting. You really, I heard from a spiritual, I was talking to a spiritualist, or some spiritual people, and they told me that, well, I ain't going to forget what you did. No, I'm going to forgive you, but I ain't going to forget what you did. And they told me, and I believe them, that you can forget. You need to forget it too. Because you're going to still be on the guard. If you ain't forgot, you're still on the guard, you looking. Mm-hmm.
Fool me once,
I see you.
shame on me.
You want to do it again?
I see you. And check this out. You don't even have to tell the person that you would forgive them. You don't have to go through the act of going up and telling them. You just forgive. You just forgive. We talk about resurrecting Jesus now. Ain't it Easter?
That's right.
So we resurrecting spiritual principle. We resurrecting, acting like Jesus. Remember when he died, his last breath, one of his last breath, and I wasn't at the 7 words yesterday, was God forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Hopefully we'll take it.
So we hear that, it's just words, right? Until we do it, until we incorporate it in our lives, this is just words. We just talking, we just bapping our gums.
Amen.
People are not perfect. They do not always do what they should.
My Lord.
Saying it so.
But when they sin, violate the law, you should confront them. If they are truly sorry for their sin, you should forgive them. If a brother/sister reject the authority of the church, nation, then let him be as a Gentile and a tax collector. That's not really love. I put that in there, and I'm not going to use that for another Bible class. And think about this. Who's a difficult person? Y'all tell me. Just how, who is a difficult person? Who is a difficult person? There you go, because everybody was coming in. If you say anything else besides yourself first, you coming from a dishonest position, right? You really responded out of a dishonest position, right? Look in this mirror. There you go.
There you go.
There you go. There. Always.
Me?
You know you difficult.
Lord,
And it ain't have to be difficult in a bad. Basically, you just want to have it your way. And sometimes some people can be nice and difficult, right?
Yes.
Then there must be service.
That's right.
You must give totally of yourself to the accomplishment of goals that transcend your selfish desires.
Facts now.
We can make goals. We're in a self-help era in which we want to. They talk about goals. I talk about in the workshops that I got. We always set personal goals for things that I desire, for things that I want to be, the things that I want to accomplish. But what about God's goals? I never see it in my workshop when they put down that word God. See, God's goals probably is not going to line up with your goals. I don't know. Unless you need to talk about my goals, or you try to make God line up with your goals, or you say God, my goals line up with God. That's what God wants me to do.
Well,
My Lord.
God's goals will be the service of the interests of the group. The interests of the group. Israel was a black nation. All of the prophets, Moses, all of the patriarchs, they were dealing with a nation. They were dealing with a group. None of it. Well, tell me somebody in the Old Testament who was dealing with individuals. Jesus wasn't dealing with individuals in the New Testament at all. That didn't come on the scene until Paul.
that's right.
Paul. And I'm telling Conan, I was like, I get tired of talking about it, but you can't. You gotta continuously make distinctions between this cat and Jesus.
That's right.
Because everything he said was a lie. Or he made this up. And that's what most Christians believe. your own interests. Help out the group that you're a part of. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and pick up his cross and follow me, Mark 8:34. But whoever would be great, anybody want to be great? You 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 want to be great?
Say it, brother.
If you want to be great, whoever want to be great among you, you must be a servant. Now this is the Black Messiah. Listen, you want to be great?
Well,
Serve.
all right.
Serve. Serve. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. So we're hearing all of his ideas, and these are going to be incorporated into our lives if there is a resurrection. To be like Jesus, service demands that we sacrifice and invest all that we have into the movement.
My Lord.
We're talking about this being a movement, all that we have. Again, I'm not saying that this is easy, but I have seen this right here in the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church. With many people, I'm not going to go through all the names. Sister got an award last week, or she got some recognition last week, because all her money,
All right now.
right, all her money went to the church. She's making good money.
All right
She
now.
was now.
She's making real, Sister London making real, everything just to hand over her check, and she never, humble, never thought once about it. I would have never known. I mean, I knew before them because people that weren't a part of our church, but they gave everything.
Right.
People in here who gave everything.
All right now.
Everything. That's real sacrifice.
Yes.
McKean did the same thing too.
And you looking, that's right. And you're looking for God's will. And what do you look for when you do service? Don't you say that. What you expect from service? For your service. What do you expect for your service? What do you expect for your service? Yeah, you expect something.
Reward.
I heard from spiritual people, they said, I expect from my service more service. More service. That's what you should expect. More service. What can I do more today, God? What would you have me to do? Jesus didn't have a place to live. Foxes have holes. But you're going to ask about, what about me? Foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lie his head. See, this is different. This Jesus of history, and that Paul Jesus, right? Or this made up Jesus, this prosperity Jesus, where everybody, he was rich. That ain't what he's saying right here. There must be a constant awareness of reality. Once you understand the nature of our social condition as a people, your need for other people becomes obvious.
Well.
Or it should. We're in trouble.
That's right.
I know we don't talk about it very much anymore, and we're hiding it.
It's the facts
We're
now.
in a lot of trouble.
All right now.
And we gotta get our younger people to see it. They are waking up and they know, but our lives are at stake.
All right now.
That's what Black Christians, our lives, first and foremost, our lives are at stake. We're not just coming in here just talking back like gum. Our lives are really at stake.
Facts now.
When you realize that you need other people, you will become more conscious of how you treat them.
Well.
That's right.
You be more conscious. And all these words are from our founder. You be more conscious of how you treat them. How can I treat you bad? I'm really hurting myself. But if you're unconscious,
That's the facts now.
Well,
it doesn't, because you're unconscious. You don't know. You're ignorant. Really.
You know not what he do.
Human relationships become more important and precious as you recognize your need for community. As you recognize your need for community. Personal romantic relationships, and listen to this, Catholics, I don't want to get y'all mixed up. I don't know we're supposed to be in personal relationships. Personal romantic relationships and nuclear families are much too fragile a foundation upon which to stake your whole, that's the key word, whole
That's right.
sense of worth and value.
all right.
Of course, family is important. Of course, your personal relationships is important, but not your whole worth and value.
Right.
Your life, it is to have real hope, security, and meaning must be tied to a reality that completely transcends your existence as an individual is.
Right.
As an individual. This is Black Christian nationalism. I'm not saying it's easy. That's why we had all those things put in place inside of our church, in which you could move to these different levels, in which you could work on yourself, the science of core, and there's no way I can cover all this in a Bible class. This is a difficult journey. This is the resurrection of a black nation. Check this out. But he said to them, my mother and brother are those who hear the word of God and do it.
That's right.
You remember when Jesus' mama, his family thought he was crazy because he was always, he was giving so much service, they didn't think he was crazy, right? A lot of us who came inside of the church, my mama thought I was crazy. You at that church all the time. All the time. You know, they used to work out here. Why you going to that church doing work? You need to be doing work at home. You crazy. She later changed her mind. She was glad that I was in the church. At least you ain't in the streets. That's what she used to tell me. That's one thing I like about that church. They ain't got you in the streets. Right? Everything in the Old Testament upon which Jesus built his teachings talks in terms of nation and not in terms of individuals seeking individual salvation.
Yeah.
Everything in the Old Testament upon which Jesus built his teachings talks in terms of nation, not in terms of individuals seeking individual salvation.
Make it plain.
I want to read this out of, I know y'all have read this. If you haven't, give yourself a break and pick this book up and read it. If you've not read this book, give yourself a break, pick this book up and read it.
That's right.
And help you
Well.
understand Black Christian nationalism.
Sure